Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the RacingBet Preview. I am your host, Tim Geers, joined by Trent Crebbin. We have had an absolute disaster of a day between the two of us. Trent was just saying off air, everything that could have gone wrong has gone wrong, and I'm not far behind him. It's all been happening. Trent, talk us through it. I'm operating off one computer screen here, trying to kind of produce as we go, look at form, and host a show. So you'll have to potentially help me out. But the good news is this weekend, the replays are safe and sound, and we should have a bit of an easier time trying to play them throughout tonight's show. How's your week been?
Yeah, not too bad. It started off okay today. Smashed out the whole of Caulfield form. Looks a nice card, and then just technical problems after technical problems for a bit of other stuff I was doing. So hopefully all behind us now, and we can get stuck into the weekend.
All right. And speaking of the weekend, of course, it's week 2 of the Tab Touch Masters over here in Perth. Winterbottom Stakes Day at Ascot. Another ripping card. Carnival time certainly upon us. And Zipping Classic Day at Caulfield. The meeting that's typically hosted at Sandown moves across to Caulfield. Do you think that's going to have much of an effect on those sorts of races?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough to tell, isn't it? Obviously, the Underwood Stakes meeting was swapped to Sandown this year. That's where the swap comes from. Look, I'm not really sure how it'll play out. I'm just basing it off as a normal Caulfield meeting, to be honest. So I know the Caulfield track fairly well, and it should play as it usually does.
Okay, over at Ascot, where we'll be playing on a good 4 as usual. I think we've got a full week of basically over 30 degrees. So it's really starting to warm up over here. They'll be loading the water on the track, no doubt about it. That's exactly what they did last week after they cried foul the week before when it came up about a firm 2 halfway through the card. But yeah, we'll be playing on a good 4 as it stands at the moment. The rail is out to the 6 metre position. I think we're out 3 metres last weekend. So the track's actually been playing pretty well. Typically for Ascot, it favours those on speed, but I wouldn't say there's been any distinct bias at all. So fingers crossed that's the scenario once again on the weekend. Now, this episode is brought to you by tab.com.au. We'll be taking a look through some of the markers of the weekend's feature racing. And if you do have any questions throughout the duration of the show that me or Trent could answer for you, make sure you throw them in the comments on whatever platform you're watching us on tonight. We're going live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. So if you've got a question about any runner or any race in particular, just throw them in the comments section. It'll show up on our end, and we will do our best to answer it for you. Trent, no luck with that one there at Pakenham. It's a bit of a graveyard for me as well. What did I back in race 2 there? That was like, I backed the Mar Eustace debutant and something from Patrick Payne. That was $6.50 and $7.50 into like $3.50 and $4, and we're given none.
Yeah, it can be a bit tricky Pakenham. I actually missed that race, so I didn't see what happened. But yeah, no good in the last. Kind of was just waiting. I thought we'd get a drift on the horse I kind of was interested in. We did, and it kind of ran up to the drift and the favourite one. So, yeah, not too much harm done, and we'll move on to tomorrow.
Yeah, we at least clawed a few, and got a few go away at Happy Valley last night, which was nice. So we've got some of a bank to work through for the weekend. Now, Caulfield, we'll take a look at your best bet on the card, which comes up late in the day. And then at Ascot, I think I've got 3 races to preview. A couple that really kind of stand out throughout the card. And then, of course, race number 8 on the card is the Winterbottom Stakes. We'll take a look at a couple of replays for that. Try and find a few winners for those watching at home. So let's kick off with your best at Caulfield on the weekend. This comes up in the lucky last. Once again, you putting your best in the last. And when you do, it typically comes off. And good odds this week again. Your race number 9, horse number 1, Streets of Avalon. He comes out of the Manikato Stakes.
Yeah, so he's had one run since then, which was in the VRC sprint down the straight behind Nature Strip. He was beaten 8 lengths there, prepared to just completely wipe that from his memory. He raced alone up the inside rail, clearly wasn't suited down the straight at 1,200 meters. You go back to his prior form, like you said, in the Manikato. Again, over 1,200 meters at the Valley, which is not his ideal scenario. He got back in the field there. We know he likes to kind of ideally race on pace. Got back there, hit the line, only beaten 2.5 lengths by Jonker. That's good enough form for this. Start before that, he was only a length when racing wide in the Fian, a length off Superstorm, who of course won the Cantala. And before that, he was only just under 3 lengths off Behemoth in the Memsey at this track and distance. So, look, he's a 2-time Group 1 winner at this track and distance. He's pitched in at weight for age, really, in a Group 3 race. Drawn barrier 1, which is ideal. He should be able to kick up and hopefully hold the front. And we should be on a good track, which he also likes. So I think you're getting a decent price. And I think the market's taking too much to account that last run, which is just a complete forgive for mine. So, yeah, Streets of Avalon, I think he's around $7. I think he's been back to a little bit, maybe $6.50 now. So that's a good price in the last, and hopefully he can just kick up, hold the front, and run them ragged.
Would be a good way to end the card before the majority of the racing is done over here in WA. I've got a few throughout the day here at Ascot, and I don't really like tipping my jockeys, but which will change in the new year. But I'm pretty keen on one at Ascot on the weekend, race number 4. This is the Westmead Platinum Final. Pretty keen to be with horse number 2, No White Flag. He's currently $2.40 with tab.com.au. I'm actually going to have something on another runner in the race as well, which I'll touch on in a sec. But this was No White Flag winning first up at Ascot over 1,200 metres, jumped straight to the front and dead set. You can see McGrady out in front here, just doesn't even move a muscle on him. He just goes to the line, hasn't even hit him, and he eases him up from about the 100, goes through to the end of the race. So it was an awfully impressive performance. Then he stepped up. I shouldn't say stepped up, but he ran a couple of weeks ago and just completely bombed the start. Sean was suspended. Chris Parham rode him, and he just made a mess of the start. And you'll remember with Fabigino, his sister, like if she ever missed the start or couldn't lead, it was just curtains for her. And it's much the same with this horse as well. Like I said, he made a mess of the start. He had to settle behind the leaders. He just over-raced really badly and just couldn't finish off at all. So drawn 2 here. If he's clean out of the gates and can lead this, I think he'll just lead and win. The 1,400 metres is the only query. We saw him win really well over 1,200 there. So if he does get the race run to suit for himself out the front, I think they're going to have a really tough time kind of chasing him down. So pretty keen to be with him. Race 4, number 2, No White Flag. The other one in the race I would be having something on is number 1, Holy Enchantment at $8 or $8.50 with tab. This horse ran in a similar race or one of the heats of this final first up behind Apple Schnaps, who just jumped to the front and a bit like No White Flag there, just ran his rivals into the dirt. I thought it was a good run from this horse. I was actually fairly keen on him on the day. He was a big late drifter in betting. I think he'll come on for that run. His second up record's 3 starts for a win and 2 second placings. And he will be suited by the 1,400 metres. So has to lug the big weight, but not too concerned about that. And I'm sure he'll be hitting the line hard. So you could do worse than him at $8 or $8.50. Pretty keen that one of those wins. So that's race 4, the Westmead Platinum Final. I'll throw out one at a bit of odds for the punters before we get into the Winterbottom Stakes. My best value bet on the card on Saturday at Ascot will be race number 3. Now, I'm going to show you the replay of Elite Street's last start win. This was the Colonel Reeves, Group 3 level. And the horse I want you to focus on here isn't actually Elite Street. I'll play this replay again when we talk about the Winterbottom. But just have a look here at Ashley Malley's horse. You can see him 4 pairs back on the rail in the white, green, and red colours. And I just want you to watch him for the length of the straight. Because it's fair to say he didn't have a whole lot of luck. You can see him just strung up in all sorts of trouble here. He has to duck back to the rail. He's trying to make ground. He's trying to find a split. Nearly gets put through the rail. He's basically gets 1 or 2 around the backside and then just goes to the line under wraps. I think he can forget about that run. You can see him just getting through there late, but at no point did he really have any clear galloping room. It's going to be a bit of a similar story tomorrow from Barrier 2, on Saturday, I should say, from Barrier 2. But if Lucy Warwick can get this horse somehow off the rail and into clear air, I think he's going to run a really good race here. Now, that was behind Elite Street. The start prior to that, he beat Kiss on All Four Cheeks. We then saw Kiss on All Four Cheeks come out and win her next start, I think, or a couple of starts leading into the railway. She then ran 3rd in the railway, so we know how good that form around Kiss on All Four Cheeks is. You don't need me to tell you. So I'm pretty keen that at $10 or at $9.50 or whatever price he is at the moment, he's over the odds here. Now, you do have a couple of smart horses in this race. Resort Man's first up in the spell. We've got Triple Missile, who, of course, was like one of the biggest runs of all time to start to go behind Will Chino and then kind of failed to fire last start. We've also got Secret Plan, who ran second to Will Chino last start. So it's a very good race, but I just think at the current prices, all-day sessions over the odds. So making my best value bet of the day. He won't be my only bet in the race. I will be backing something else. I will have the full preview up on RacingBet so you can see. But definitely double figure odds for this horse is definitely over the odds. So making my best value bet of the day. Trent, I'm going to throw to you to give me some thoughts on the Winterbottom before I give you my thoughts.
Okay, question without notice.
Yep.
I am definitely with Elite Street, which is not you don't need any prizes to find him. But I have seen a lot of commentary from a couple of well-respected WA judges this week that Will Chino is almost the horse to beat. Got the picket fence there. I thought she had her chance last start to run 1200, kind of just sitting off the money of Zeeble, I think it was. And now she's got a race where she's drawn the inside. I think she's going to get crossed. Interested in your thoughts on that, but I think something will cross her. I can't quite remember who it was, but Indian Pacific will come across from out wide, and there's another one as well that I think will end up crossing her. So I think she's going to be
Caracapo going forward too.
Caracapo will be there. Money Matters is quite quick as well. Yeah, there's a few that can really race on speed here. So look, I was happy enough to be with the proven performer in Elite Street. He's been giving his rivals weight. He's been giving them a beating. He gets 1,200 meters, which is going to suit. Draws well, I think, in barrier 10. That's a good draw for him. He can just sit just worse than midfield, probably with cover and get to the outside, and he's going to have an uninterrupted run. So I think he's clearly the horse to beat. And if he keeps drifting and a few people keep backing Will Chino, I'll be happy to back Elite Street.
Yeah, hopefully you can see the market up at the moment, courtesy of tab.com.au. I can't see I can't see what's showing on screen at the moment. But yeah, like you said, $2.50 with tab.com.au. You get down to the bottom here with Will Chino, $4.20. Graceful Girl, $7, drawn barrier 18 and double figures the rest, basically. So pretty fair to say that Dan Morton's got a stranglehold on the race as I return to, hopefully. Yep. Okay, good. Yeah, well, it's funny you mentioned the draws, because if there was one bloke leaving the barrier draw the other night with a smile on his face, it would have been Dan Morton. I said this to Smatho this morning on our Sport Chance preview. If you could have picked out two barriers for Elite Street and Will Chino, probably would have been something like barrier 8 to 10 for Elite Street, or 7 to 10, and barrier 1 for Will Chino. If she had drawn wide, makes her life pretty tough. But I think particularly after the last start, a few people, she probably got them on side because she ticked the 1,200 meter box. She that was the query, was the 1,200 meters, and she did it with 60 kilos and went within about half a second of breaking the track record. Now, yeah, the track was absolutely dynamite that day, but she's just handled everything that's been thrown in her way. So, yeah, it's a good point you raised, but I'm also on your side with Elite Street. I just think he is the best horse in the race. And I just think if, with even luck, he rounds them up. Like, he's just returned at his absolute best this preparation. He gave him all weight last start, drew barrier 14, carried 59.5, and gave him a beating once again and never looked like losing. Now he drops to 58.5 under weight for age conditions, actually gets a weight swing on on all of the horses he beat in the Colonel Reeves. Like, Graceful Girls run second to him, beaten 0.65 lengths. She's got to give him 3 kilos under the Winterbottom conditions. So he gets in so well. I just think he's absolutely flying. Like, barrier 10 is just perfect for him. If he can get into a 2 or 3 wide running line, I just think he wins. And I'm happy to take $2.50 as well. The only thing I will say about Will Chino is that basically the knocks I have on her are the same knocks I had on Elite Street in last year's Winterbottom, which was she's only been betting up on restricted company. She's only raced in 72 plus grade at the best. And that's basically what Elite Street did last year. And there he was coming out and winning the Winterbottom at his first go in basically stakes grade. So I'm not underestimating her as much as I was kind of underestimating Elite Street last year. And like I said, she gets the perfect barrier draw. she's probably going to let the speed go, you would think. Like you said, there's a few that go forward here. Like Money Matters, I think, is going to be ridden prominently. The stable said Indian Pacific definitely goes forward from barrier 12. Who knows what they do with Outrageous first up in WA. Like last time you saw him in Melbourne, he was leading the Sofitel at Flemington.
I don't think he's quick enough. He's a 1,400-meter horse, in my opinion. And
he might not be in Melbourne. He might not be in Melbourne, but under Luke Fanny's care, he might be quick enough. So
yeah, I don't know about the stable, but
drawn 14
I would know from his Melbourne form, he wouldn't be quick enough to go with the likes of Indian Pacific. But you know, the change of stable does.
Cara Capo, I would suggest, is ridden more prominently than it was last start. Just so many of these could put pace in the race. Long Beach is definitely going to go forward. Riverboat from 17. What do they do from there? And of course, you've got Wilchino drawn the inside. Now, the last thing they want to do on Wilchino is get buried 3 back the fence. So I would suggest that very worst she's going to be box seating here.
Lead us back. Yeah.
Yeah, we saw her 2 starts ago. She, whether it was last start or the start before that, when Zeeble led, I think it was last start where Zeeble led and she just took a hold and trailed it up and she handled it perfectly. So she's showing that she's versatile and she's not just a horse that's a one-trick pony and has to go to the front. So, look, I think they're basically the only 2 winning chances in the race, if I'm very honest. I think it's a pretty thin race. There's some good horses in the race, but I just think, like, at their best, these 2 are just clear. Graceful Girl from 18 is going to be 18 lengths off them at the top of the straight, and she'll be rocketing home, no doubt in my mind. But, yeah, it's hard to win a Winterbottom from last, especially if you're giving... Especially if you're giving something like Elite Street lengths. You know, if you're having to chase down Elite Street, like, good luck reeling them in, especially worse off at the weights. You were saying?
It's the same kind of case for the other Cerise White for Stage Man. I know he's perennially unlucky horse, but he'll get back.
Find a horse in WA that's more unlucky than Stage Man.
Yeah,
he finds new ways to get beat every start.
But I thought, $17. He's probably the one that if they go completely lightning and he's drawn 15, like. Clint Johnson Porter surely can't find bad luck from there. Just go back. I think he's probably almost a better horse than Graceful Girl. There's not much between them, I wouldn't have thought.
Could be right.
And you're getting double the price. You probably got William Pike on Graceful Girl. That's going to keep her short, obviously. But yeah, I thought Stage Man was probably the real big closer, and getting to 1,200 is definitely a tick for him. So
huge plus, yeah.
Huge plus for him. Would have liked Pike to stick with him, but maybe you're just going to get a better price about him. So yeah, Elite Street clearly on top for me, and Stage Man, can run a place.
Others to throw in, well, the old boy Rock Magic, the 12-year-old Marvel. He just never runs a bad race, like ever, basically. He was huge first up in the Caulfield. He was a little bit plain in the Prince of Wales, but he's going to be better suited up 1,200, third up from a spell. So he can go into your trifectas and first 4s. Red Can Man, he's going to be thereabouts. I'd be absolutely over the moon if he did win it, for obvious reasons. But just the gate's slightly tricky, barrier 11. Like, I don't know where Sean's going to get to from barrier 11. He's just going to need to produce an absolute gem from that gate. Given this is a horse that he jumps well and he settles handy, it'll take some riding. But if they go like the Clappers and string him out, he might be able to slot in and find a spot. His first up run was very good in the Colonel Reeves. Like, we spoke about him being underdone off his Melbourne campaign and probably a gallop short. So you look at his second up record, it's very good. I'd suggest that he'll come on from that first up run and can be competitive. He's just about always competitive, isn't he? Yeah, I'd love him to win it, but he's up against it here.
Indian Pacific, any chance? Or 1,200, a bit of a query? At his best, he was kind of right up there with the best sprinters in WA, but he's a little bit out of form.
Yeah. And it's hard to say. Like, the horses run 4th first up and 3rd last start, but I'm with you. I just don't know if he's at his really at his best. And he'd have to be at his best to win this race. And from that gate, like, he's going to... Again, he's up against it. It's not as if he's going to get a really soft draw, which he probably would need. The unlucky run in the Colonel Reeves was Icy Red. So this is kind of the new horse on the block. He won 3 straight, then had 8 weeks off going into the Colonel Reeves and was basically held up the entire straight. Never got a clear crack at him and was only beaten a touch over 2 lengths by Elite Street. So he could definitely be thrown in. the two emergencies will come out, which I'll get to in a second. But yeah, outside these two favourites, it's a wide open race. Now here was that same replay, Elite Street winning the Colonel Reeves last start. This is what I mean. You can just see Brad Willer just swinging off him here, far left of screen, in the violet colours. This is 59 kilos from barrier 14, and he rounds him up in 3 strides, and he was never ever getting beat. So, like, this is Graceful Girl finishing off behind him, but like I said, she's going to have to give him 3 kilos. I thought that was pretty soft from Elite Street. I think he's got another gear to go to. This is Will Chino. First try at 1200 chasing Zeeble last up with 60 kilos, nearly breaking the track record. So this is the race we were referencing as we were talking just shortly ago. Triple Missile, a little bit disappointing coming from back in the field, but yeah, good effort this from Will Chino, chasing that hot speed with the top weight and never looked like getting beat. Was never in any danger.
I think that's a little bit of a, like, she kind of chased that hot speed, but she also just kind of sat off the leader and didn't actually have any pressure around her. She was the one that was close enough within striking distance and is, obviously still a very good horse. I think it's going to be a different setup for her, whereas she's going to have horses around her pressuring her for 1200 meters. Whereas that one, she could just kind of let Zeeble go, sit a length off him, and there was 3 lengths back to the next horse, and she was basically just leading them up and, not doing a stack of work. I think it's going to be a little bit of a different setup in the Winterbottom, because I think, she's going to get crossed. It's going to be horses around her, eyeballing her, and I think it's going to be a tougher 1200 meters for her to run out. So that's the kind of the main reason I'm against her. But no doubt, she's a very, very talented horse, very progressive horse.
And again, like, the harder they go, the better it is for Elite Street, who just sits back and coasts into the race. He just travels so good. And I reckon you'll know with Elite Street at probably the 400 if he's going to win. Probably the 600. Like, if he finds a 3 wide with covered line and at the top of the straight, Brad hasn't moved, I think he'll be winning. If he's under pressure, obviously, you'll know. I think you'll know a long way out whether he's going to win or not. And I think he will. So, look, I think that pretty well covers the Winterbottom for mine. A little bit disappointing that there's no Eastern States participation this year, but, there was last year and he gave him a bath as well. So, I just hope that in the autumn they can kind of take him back to Melbourne and really get him right and we get to see the best of him over there, because it could be a pretty exciting horse if he's right.
Agreed.
And as we know, the West Australian form holds up well. All right. Anything else on Zipping Classic Day there at Caulfield that we haven't touched on that you'd like to mention?
I think that pretty much covered it. The feature, the Zipping Classic, Spanish Missions, $1.50. Glenn Boss announced his retirement just about an hour or so ago. It might be his last ride, actually. I think it is his last ride.
Hey?
Yeah, so I think he's only got 1 ride for the day, so that'll be his last, unless he comes back or whatever he does. So, look, should win.
Comes back
not backing
again.
At the not backing at the price. I thought Silent Sovereign was the one that was overs in the market, could run a hole, but yeah, Spanish Mission should win. I just don't want to back him at $1.50.
Yeah, tough to dive into that price. I suppose quickly before we sign off, thoughts with Chris Graham, who I'm not sure if you guys saw it. It was an awful fall at Northam.
No, I didn't see it.
Me and Kate were on the way back. It was the race after Kate's, and it just looked like the horse just broke down in the straight, and boy, he hit the deck hard, and the horse right on top of him. So, from all reports, it wasn't a great scene.
Broken collarbone, but okay.
He's got a broken collarbone?
Yeah, Chris Graham's got a broken collarbone.
Well, if that's all he comes out of that incident,
maybe count himself lucky.
It's a very good outcome. It's just, unfortunately, the last few weeks, probably the last month or so over here in WA, it's just been some rotten luck with race force. So, fingers crossed he's okay. Never nice to see. Anyway, we move on. If you're watching us on Facebook or YouTube or whatever you're watching us on tonight, please throw us a like or subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like the video if you can, helps us out a good deal. So if you could do that, it'd be much appreciated. And you can find all our previews for the weekend. We'll have Caulfield, Ascot and Rose Hill, I think, covered on racingbet.com.au. If you're keen to sign up to the Discord channel, the premium Discord channel, head to the Racing Bet website, go to premium tips, and it's all there in black and white of how to sign up. You can sign up to a 7-day free trial to check it out if you like. And hopefully we can provide you with a few additional winners as to what's published on the website throughout the week. All right, Trent, I think that'll do us for this week. We thank tab.com.au for their continued support throughout this spring carnival, and we should be back to do it again next Thursday night to preview the final day of the Perth Carnival, Kingston Town Day. What have you got there in Melbourne next week?
I think it's Pakenham. So, yeah.
Oh,
that
fantastic.
should be fun. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, we'll do our best to find some winners.
Exactly.
Yep. All right. Thanks for your company this week. Good luck on the weekend, and we'll catch you all again next week.